I'm currently in Japan. I flew here from Bali to keep running and scaling my business as I move around from city to city. In the last 12 months, I've managed to grow my business over 6 figures in monthly recurring revenue. And there's a lot that I've learned. It's been a crazy experience. And in this video, I'm going to walk through 3 of my biggest takeaways. So number 1, things don't happen to me, they happen for me. That was a huge takeaway for me in the last 12 months. And it was one of those lessons that really brought me comfort once I finally accepted it to be true. Lesson number 2, you have to do the unscalable dirty work in your business. There is no way around it. The only way to the other side is through the mud, crawling on your arms and knees, right? Like army crawling. You have to get in there. You got to get your hands dirty. There's just no other way you're going to get to that next level. And number 3, identity and beliefs come first and everything else follows. And I know when you hear the word identity and you hear the word beliefs, it can sound really airy-fairy, but what I'm going to break down here and my takeaway was it's not in the law of attraction type of way. It's not about The Secret. It's not about putting out positive energy. It's actually a lot more practical than that. So let me now go through and expand on each point. So things don't happen to you, they happen for you. If you set a goal and the goal is significantly bigger than where you currently are, right? Let's say you're at 20K per month and you say, I want to get to $500,000 per month. You have to be careful what you wish for. That was the thing that I wrote down. Because if you set a goal and the goal is so massive like that, sometimes to get there, it may mean whether you believe in God, whether it's the universe, whether it is nature, whatever it is that you believe in. I believe in God, so I'm going to refer to God for the rest of this video. It may mean that God will say to you, okay, no problem. Ask and you shall receive. I shall give that to you. But because he's not going to come and communicate with you in verbal words and say, hey, to get to 500K per month, you're actually going to have to shut down this current business because this current business is not really set up for the level of scale that you want. And you also told me you want to build a business that, has equity and value because you want to go through like an 8-figure acquisition one day. Well, the current business that you're in, it relies too much on you and your personal brand. So I'm going to have to get you to shut that down and then start this new business. And then you go, oh, okay, thank you. Sounds good, right? Thanks for giving me the answer. It doesn't work that way. You will think that you're going to get to that next level, that 500K per month in what you're currently doing because that's all you know. But then you ask for that level of growth and then God comes and he essentially forces you into taking the actions and steps that is going to give you what it is that you want. But in the process, it seems like you're taking 10 steps backwards. It seems extremely painful. It even will feel as though you are failing. And I remember feeling this a lot. I felt as though I had taken so many steps backwards because I had been used to running, say, for example, my previous business and it easily generating profit because of my personal brand and my mentoring and consulting I was doing where a lot of people would work with me one-on-one and that was easy and I was making a lot of profit from that. But then when I finally made the decision, I made this commitment of what I wanted to achieve in the next 5 to 10 years. And I learned that I've learned this along the way. In order to get there, I had to build a proper business that is, where the value is in the brand itself and not in the business owner. When I learned all of that, it was only on the back of me feeling as though I was failing for like almost 1 or 2 years straight and going backwards because what I had was crumbling down essentially, and the best example that I came up with is the example of having a 10-story apartment building. And then whilst you're at like level, 5 and 6, like you're building this building, right? Like you've laid the foundations, you've built the building. And when you started building the building, your goal was just to get to build a 10-story building. But then you're at like story number 6, right? Level number 6. And you think to yourself, okay, you know what? I've decided I've decided I want to build a 100-story skyscraper, right? So that's like you're building your business, your goal was to get to 50K per month, you're at like 30 or 40, and then you'd realize, you know what, actually, this is what I want to do. This is the level that I want to reach. And in the ideal world, what we'd love to happen is you just keep on building. And it's just simple. You just go, okay, I'll get to 10, I'll just keep building to the 11th floor, 14th, 21st, all the way until 100. But reality is it doesn't work that way, because the work that you would put in to lay the foundations and how you would engineer a 100-story skyscraper is totally different to the plans and foundations that you would put in the ground, to the engineering that you would put for a 10-story building. Totally different. And if you were to try and attempt to build to 100 stories on what was essentially a structure or a foundation that was only made for 10 stories, everything is just going to come crumbling down and you're going to lose everything overnight. So sometimes you have to actually accept the fact that you're going to have to self-demolish. You're going to have to demolish that building and accept that for at least 6, 12 months, maybe even 2 or 3 years, it's going to seem like you're going backwards. But what you're doing is you're actually demolishing the building, redoing the foundations, restructuring everything again to start building again. And it's going to be some time before you even get back to where it is that you were before. And that process of going backwards is extremely painful, especially when you've built the identity that you're successful like I did. But when you do it this time, you will get to a point where you get back to that, say, level 6, level 7, you realize, shit, like I've just got back to where I was before and it feels like I'm just getting started. And that's the best way I can describe my journey. You know, I'm at a point now where I have surpassed where I've been before. So I've just built past my previous highs in my business journey, but it feels so different. Like it feels as though I'm just getting started with the business that I have, the business model that I have, my mental foundations, everything. And there's a couple examples I can quickly give you here just to really illustrate this. I mean, that's the first major example is me having to take what was like a previous sales and marketing agency with employees and revenue and profit, and I let go of a lot of clients, had to fire staff, and it was just so painful for like 6 or 12 months. And that was like my first big example. But the second one is just like a quick, easy one, and that was in my current business model. A fundamental part of the business is the sales center that I've built. So, you know, my business, as it grows, the main and primary value that we have to offer to clients is them essentially outsourcing their sales to our team. So part of what makes our service so valuable to our customers is the fact that we make all the calls on their behalf. We really qualify their prospects. We essentially set them up so that they're walking through the door with someone, for the most part, who's ready to buy. And when I first discovered that that's the step I need to take in my business, I hired a setter, an appointment setter, and they were Australian based. And I remember I was even paying them close to $70,000 or $80,000 a year. And a month into their job, after they had started, we had rolled out this service and all of our customers and clients were really happy with it, he actually put in his letter of resignation, like he resigned. And I remember at the time I just felt so shitty and so down, and I was like, oh my God, like I finally got someone, like it took me forever, and what am I going to do with all of these? Like this is our service now, like am I going to jump in and try to make all these calls myself? Like I have so many other things to do in the business. It felt like I had just taken 3 or 4 steps backwards. But if it wasn't for that, added the desperation of needing to make a decision quickly, I wouldn't have made the decision to what I thought was a temporary solution, which was hiring an overseas setter. If I hadn't taken that action, I wouldn't have seen that overseas setter come through, who I hired at a fraction of the cost. I wouldn't have seen them come through, get handed over, go through the handover process with the existing setter, seeing a local setter and the overseas setter compete side by side simultaneously, and witness the overseas setter, who was a more experienced sales rep, but I had prejudged because they weren't Australian based, outperform our local Aussie. And that decision, or that experience, led to me building one of the moats of my business, which is the ability to hire overseas sales reps and place them into our Australian-based company and have them be able to actually produce the same or better results than our competitors who are reliant on hiring local Aussie staff. It ended up becoming one of the big moats of our business, or why we're able to be so competitive on price, our profit. Our business, it just would not, the economics would not make sense if we didn't end up making, this decision. So I just look back at that moment and I think at the time it felt like I was losing. It felt like I was taking a step backwards, but it was actually God's way of saying, hey, I'm going to create this tragic, or like this thing that's going to happen that's going to feel really shitty, but it's because I need you to discover this thing over here. And then the second or the third quick example I can give you is I was trying to hire a tech person for my business at some point, who was going to come in and get all of our data right and get all of our sheets right, and of like how we track our data and build systems for the business. And by this point, I had never used any AI tools. I haven't really used AI tools, but I kept hearing about it. So anyways, I tried to hire my first tech guy. It didn't work out. I let him go. Then I hired my second after like weeks and weeks of interviews. And I finally found someone and I hired him. And I was about to go away on holiday in like a week's time. So I was planning on handing over to him so he can like continue to run the tech department and do all the admin stuff. And then he resigned after a day as well. And I was like, man, what is going on? Like, this shouldn't be that hard. Like, I'm like trying my best to try and get this done, but it's just not working out. And then I decided out of desperation to just get all of these data sheets done myself. And I thought I had to be like a Google Sheets expert. I thought to get my data right, I had to like really like hire this person and factor in like a wage for a tech person. It's not cheap. Even if they're overseas, it's not cheap, especially you're going to find someone really talented. And in a week, I, out of desperation again, because I was in pain, went and, got access to ChatGPT properly, paid for the subscription. And with me in chat, I was able to build all of our data sheets. And that 1 week of doing what I did, I still have not hired a tech person to cover that role till today. So not only did it teach me how to use AI and how powerful AI was, and I was able to start leveraging AI in my business really early on because I had to, but number two, I just saved myself an extra overhead that I did not need. And again, like now if I speak to God, I'm like, hey, like it seems like you were purposefully, even though I was trying to do everything right, like it was like you were purposefully making sure I didn't get this right so that I could take this step, right? And then I imagine him saying, yeah, because he's not going to come and talk to you. So that's why you have to have faith. Okay, I think that summarizes the point. Number one, things don't happen to you, they happen for you quite well. Number two, you have to do the unscalable dirty work. There's no way around it. You can't avoid it. And I wrote here, especially if you don't have a business partner. If you have a business partner and like one of you is all operations, the other one's all sales and marketing, then I'd still say it's true, just in your own respective areas of expertise, right? So if you're the sales and marketing guy, you're going to have to run all your ads yourself, and you're going to have to get into your sales calls yourself. There's just no way around it. You're not going to, at the beginning, maybe you might be able to get some help with, hiring closers or an outsourced sales agency or a marketing agency, but you're going to eventually have to learn how to do this stuff yourself, because you just won't be able to know what the standard is unless you do it yourself, right? Same with operations, right? Like, you're going to have to just learn how to manage a team yourself and be a leader yourself before you make these decisions. For me, I didn't have a business partner, so I had to learn how to do and execute in every single one of these departments
along the way. And because I had previously ran a successful business, I'd already gotten in the mindset that I was outside of operations. So when I had started this new business that I started, I still had that business owner mindset. So right from the beginning, I tried to completely avoid needing to get involved in certain areas of the business. So one area of the business I can give you an example on is that sales center, like our appointment setting, sales center, where we essentially speak to the clients of our customers and qualify them and get them ready. It's just one part of our business and our service. So what I tried to do was write the script, hire the people, teach people the script, and then get them to execute the script. But I never worked in the job myself. I never picked up the phone and was like, okay, I'm just going to work like a customer service rep or as a sales rep or as an appointment setter. I never did it. And I tried to, I was like, almost like I was too good for it. Like I was like, oh man, like that's not a good use of my time. I'm the business owner. But all that happened was I ended up hiring the wrong people because I didn't know what skills I was looking for. People that I would hire, I wouldn't be able to hold them to a standard because I hadn't worked in the job, so I didn't know what the standard was. Like, is it $50 a day? Is it 100? Is it 150? What is our speed to lead supposed to look like? What is the amount of talk time that's reasonable? How does someone feel when they're, what do they feel when they're sitting there making dials or taking calls? Like, what does that do to the energy levels? I hadn't really worked in their job. I hadn't really experienced this. So even when I was leading, I couldn't lead properly because in their minds, I started getting pushback from my team because they were like, have you ever even done this job? Like, it was crazy. Like, even if you employed people and you'll become their leader and they respect you, if you haven't done their job and you can't say, like, I've done your job, I know what the standard is, they're not going to respect you and you're not going to be able to enforce a standard. And so I ended up getting involved in that department, and that's when things began to change. That's when I was able to take my level of product to the next level. It wasn't until I started doing the dirty work there. And the same thing can be said about, like our B2B account management department. So, actually signing on our clients requires someone who has the skill level of a high ticket closer and a really good account manager, right? Because we're selling a high ticket, service and retainer here, right? So, what I tried to do was I would go in and I would sell at a particular price point and at a particular, and I didn't actually have a proper script, but I had a vague script, like a vague process I would follow, like dot points. And then when I tried to hire people, I would hire people before I had my offer locked in. Like, I would have some guarantees for some people, different guarantees for others. I tried hiring, at the time that I hired my first closers, I did it when I didn't have my offer. My pricing wasn't even really locked in. There was no proper script. So it was really the Leo script. Like, if I closed at 20%, 30%, 40%, like, I couldn't tell people why. What words did I use and what order did I ask questions? So I would just hire experienced closers and be like, here, like, watch some of my videos and go sell. And it just wouldn't work out. It wasn't until I really said to myself, like, okay, I understand you're the business owner, but you've got to go and be a closer first. Like, you got to learn how to sell your product and get your script right and consistently sell at a specific percentage with the same exact offer, with you following a script every single time, then hire someone. And then I finally did that. And when I did that, that's when, again, the business began to, I finally broke through. So every time I've avoided doing the dirty work, whether it's doing a certain admin task, whether it's leading and managing my team, whether it's taking sales calls, whether it's even doing our marketing, like, every time I've tried to avoid doing that, all it's done is it's just prolonged a lesson that I eventually had to learn that I would have learned if I just done the dirty work myself. Like, I learned more in the 2 weeks that I picked up the phones and started dialing and calling customers and working as a sales rep in our sales center. I learned more in those 2 weeks on how to actually put together the proper script, the routine, how to stay productive, how to manage my team properly. I learned more in those 2 weeks than and we made more progress in those 2 weeks than I had done for the 6 months prior. So as much as you want to think about outsourcing and delegating and getting outside of the business so you can work in it, just understand that there are seasons for everything. So I think so the question really is, okay, so at what point do you know whether you've done enough? I would say when that job that you're doing becomes tedious and repetitive. So when you get to a point where you get into a day and then you're just using the same script and you're following a process and you're no longer really making adjustments and you're getting a result and it's becoming boring and it's just becoming you just having a job now, like you just show up and do the same thing every day. That's when you know you've gotten the department ready to be handed over by other people so you can focus on optimizing it. And the final point is identity and beliefs come first. Everything else follows. Again, like, I used to look at this as like a little bit airy-fairy, but it's not really how a lot of people talk about identity and beliefs. I try to think about it from the most practical sense possible. If I jump into sales calls and I do not believe that people have $10,000 in their bank account, I'll never have the confidence to ask for that much money. If I jump into a sales call and I believe that the best way to sell is not to put pressure on people and to let them think about it and take their time, I'm going to be a terrible closer. Because at the moment someone says to me, I need to think about it, I'm going to say, yeah, of course, take your time. And I'm not going to actually get the real objections out of them, right? If I believe that, $100,000 a month is a lot of money, and that's it, that's the pinnacle, and that's like that number, then when I get there, I'm just going to either stay there or I'm going to go backwards. But I'm not, like the person next to me might have got to $500,000. The only difference between me and him is he believes $500,000 was the equivalent to my 100,000 a month, which is the equivalent to someone else's 10 grand a month. Like the only thing that changes is what all these three people think is a lot of money. And a lot of that has to do with childhood and upbringing. Like if you grew up and your dad said, I make $1 million a month, your goal is probably going to be $1 million a month. And you're not going to think anything below that is a lot of money. But if you grew up and, your dad, would have issues at $50, if a bill came in that was $50 above, you'd probably think that, $50 was a lot of money. So those are the type of things you have to work through. So one of the, for example, issues that I had was when I jumped into sales calls, I thought people were going to judge me because of my age. My target demographic, the B2B market I sell, they're a lot older. They're in their 40s and 50s. And I just thought they would judge me, for my age. I also thought that when I jumped on, if they found out that I hadn't actually worked in their industry, that they would judge me as well. And again, for 6 months, believed those things to be true. I believed that I used to say this, there is no way, and like Aussies are different. I used to say this, Aussies are different. Anytime a sales coach or anything would tell me, oh yeah, it doesn't matter. Accents don't matter. Hiring people for overseas doesn't matter. It's so long as they can sell. I'm like, nah, Aussies are different, mate. Like you're in the US, Aussies are different. Aussies only buy from Aussies. That was the belief that I had. And then I finally broke through on that belief and hired overseas sales reps who outperformed any Aussie closer that I had ever worked with, And some of my reps have collected more cash up front than me as the business owner. But for maybe 12 months or, I'd say a solid 12 months, I had an opportunity to easily hire certain people from overseas and I just didn't. And I decided to hire locals at a much higher premium, and it was much harder to hire them. And it was a lot more expensive to advertise to them, and I had to do way more interviews. It was crazy. So again, that was my belief. And if I'd still believed that, and if I hadn't broken through on that belief, I wouldn't be in the position, that I'm in today. Another example I can give you is Q4. So Q4, everyone slows down in Q4. And I used to dread and hate Q4. Like, oh man, like especially November, December, no one signs up, everyone goes on holidays, people just start using the next year objection. And then I just said, no, like I don't believe that. In fact, I'm going to make Q4 the biggest quarter of the year. I said that and I was like, you're crazy. And I was writing it down and I was still thinking I was crazy, but I just committed to that being true. And lo and behold, Q4 of last year ended up being the biggest quarter of the entire year. I just forced myself to look at things totally different. Like, okay, if people have the objection of starting next year, how can we make that the reason they start now? Right? How can we create urgency? How can we get ahead of that objection before it even comes up? And we restructured our pitch VSL videos to address the objection. We brought it up in the first couple minutes. So we'd go, oh yeah, so good catching up with you. By the way, we're only doing these calls with people who are ready to sign up this side of the year, who want to get busy and hit the ground running in the new year. If you're happy with what you hit today, you're happy to get the ball rolling. And they would say, yeah. Oh, otherwise we're going to have to reschedule this. We would say to them, no, it's okay. I can take it now. And it just eliminated the objection. Like it's so crazy sometimes, like how easy it is to just take like this belief that you have and restructure it once you force yourself to believe the opposite. Even in Q1, like January, everyone's still on holidays. January was our biggest month to date in terms of how many people we signed on, just because I just decided I was going to, make that true. And I'm going through the same thing right now with where the business is at. I have a lot of limiting beliefs around the size of our market. Like I say, Australia is only 26 million. There is more people in California or in Texas in the US and one state in the US as there is in all of Australia. Like we've hit our ceiling in terms of revenue. Like we've tapped our market and we're in such a small sub niche, we're in a niche of a niche, right? And I'm just like, again, refusing for that to be true. And your mind just goes into resourceful mode and lo and behold, we're continuously finding ways to break through. So really take a look at where you're at, and especially if you found yourself kind of looping at the same level, like if you're going backwards and forwards in terms of revenue, profit, team size, whatever it is. And what you really should be doing is asking yourself, well, what do I actually fundamentally believe about my situation? And then when you write down these beliefs, you'll realize that all that's been happening is you're just getting an outside external reflection of what it is that you believe internally. You know what I mean? Like it's, if you believe you've tapped out the market, you're going to look for reasons for that to be true via confirmation bias. And everything that you do, every time ads don't scale, oh, we've tapped out the market. Not, I need to launch more creatives, or I need to go to a different angle, different platform to advertise on, or I need to launch a new funnel. You think I've tapped out the market, and then you just kind of like stop in your tracks there, So really question your beliefs and thoughts. And the thing that I do when I really want to force a breakthrough is every decision I make where I go, okay, what decision would I usually make? Now I'm going to make the opposite. I'm going to make a different decision. So the last example I'll give you before I wrap this up is I was at a point where I used to always make this decision where if let's say I needed to hire someone, right? I would go through like a hiring run, and the 2 weeks that I would go through a hiring run, I'd usually just be in interviews, doing first, second, third interviews, group interviews. And whenever I'd go through a hiring run, between me doing the hiring, running the business, account managing, like all the other things I would do, I would have no time for sales calls, or at least I would tell myself that. So I'd always turn off my ads. And I remember there was this one time I was sitting out upstairs watching something on the TV, and I sat there and I'm like, I just turned off my B2B ads, and I've made that decision. I've literally made the same decision at the same exact time whenever I've had to hire someone for like the last 6 months, and I'm still in the same position I was 6 months ago. So I'm going to make a different decision. And I went downstairs, opened up my laptop, and not only did I turn my B2B ads back on, like customer acquisition ads, I scaled the spend. And I just said, I'm gonna figure it out. And lo and behold, I figured it out. I continued to hire, and I was closing and signing on new clients. It got hectic, but it's what helped me break through. And then when because obviously if you're turning off your ads, you're going to go backwards. Like you're not going to have people in the pipeline to sell. So you end up losing a couple clients, and then you're back to where you started, and then you have to play catch up again. It's like feast and famine. So take a look at how you're making your decisions and really start to scrutinize your decision making and your identity and your beliefs. So those are my 3 key lessons. I'm really, really grateful to be where I'm at today. I always remind myself of just how tough things were 12 months ago. And if you are in the position or in a similar position that I was 12 months ago, have faith and just believe again that, nothing's happening to you, it's happening for you, especially if you're putting in the hard work. And if you're at a point in your business where you're actually doing quite well, but you're stuck at those levels, you've hit a bit of a ceiling, and that you've reached the level you're happy with, and you were like, if I get here one day, this would be awesome. But now you're stuck there, and you've been stuck there for a while. It's very likely going to have to do with your unwillingness to just get in and do the dirty work and do what's necessary, and or your identity and your beliefs and how you're thinking. So until next time and the next country, take care.